Of all the warrior cultures who have walked the earth, it is perhaps the Vikings that people are most fascinated by. Their ferocity and legendary exploits have led some to dub them as the ultimate warriors, and even their genetic legacy can still be found within millions of us to this day. While exact dates vary by region, it is thought that these Norse raiders and explorers dominated parts of Europe, Asia, and even North America between roughly 793 and 1066 AD, a period known as the Viking Age. This era was a time of brutal warfare, harsh climates, and constant struggle for survival that made life no walk in the park. Therefore, to survive and thrive in these unforgiving conditions, Vikings developed some of the most insane physical capabilities seen in any warrior culture, and if alive today, some would most likely even consider them to be superhuman in a few senses. From afar, their anatomical differences to modern populations would not be so obvious, with the likeliest contrasting feature being their height. Recovered skeletal remains show that on average, Vikings were quite a bit taller than many of their contemporary populations, typically being around 5 to 8 centimeters taller than other medieval Europeans. The tallest known Viking specimens are believed to have been about 1.83 meters or 6 feet tall, which really doesn't seem that impressive by today's standards. However, when comparing Vikings to European populations of their time, we find that Vikings towered over most of their neighbors and enemies alike. What's fascinating though is that despite not being giants by modern standards, Vikings were significantly heavier and more muscular than their contemporaries, with the average male warrior weighing up to 90 kilograms or 198 pounds, while females usually hovered around 70 kilograms or 154 pounds, making them considerably more robust than the average person of their era. The reason behind this impressive build is that Vikings had incredibly robust skeletons that were much more dense than typical medieval populations, with virtually every single bone being thicker and heavier. Their shoulders, femurs, chest, arms, and leg bones were especially bulky, which are all signs that they were extremely powerful and muscular in life. It is widely agreed upon that Viking warriors were much stronger than most of their adversaries, a necessary adaptation to their brutal combat tactics that involved wielding heavy weapons like battle axes, longswords, and massive warhammers in close quarters combat. These weapons were used to take down not just human enemies but also large and dangerous prey during hunts, which included bears, boars, elk, and even walruses during coastal expeditions. This widespread and presumably lifelong use of these heavy weapons is what researchers believe led to the distinct, powerfully built arms seen in many Viking skeletal remains that would have allowed them to wield weapons with ferocious intensity. The well-defined nature of their arms and overall muscular build was also a sign of extreme physical conditioning through constant training and labor. According to multiple historical and archaeological studies, Vikings were naturally built for strength through a combination of genetics and brutal physical conditioning that added to their increased muscle mass and provided them with the ability to pull off some pretty crazy feats of strength. Historical accounts describe Viking warriors carrying wounded comrades along with their armor and weapons for miles during retreats, or rowing their longships for days on end without rest. Some sagas even mention warriors who could lift boulders that required 3 normal men to move. What's more is that, thanks to their larger chests, shoulders, and arms, scientists assume that Viking warriors would have been exceptional grapplers and strongmen if measured by modern standards. Elite Viking warriors, based on skeletal analysis and historical accounts, could have possibly wielded weapons weighing 15 to 20 kilograms with one hand while using a shield with the other, a feat that would require extraordinary strength by any measure. Their stocky, powerful builds played a big role in this strength too. But it wasn't only power that they gained from their robustness, it bestowed upon them incredible durability as well, a nice touch to complement the brutally hard lives that many Vikings endured. In fact, systematic analysis on recovered skeletons found that between 70 and 85% showed signs of extreme trauma that had fully healed. These injuries ranged from blade cuts and blunt force fractures all the way to traumatic amputations and arrow wounds. A particularly gruesome case involves a Viking warrior skeleton found in England who, during his life, had survived a sword blow that split his jaw, lost several teeth to combat, had his nose broken multiple times, sustained a fractured skull that healed, and had his left arm broken so badly that it healed at an incorrect angle, yet he continued to fight. The high degree of damage seen in Viking specimens is thought to have come from a mix of their aggressive face-to-face combat tactics, raiding warfare, interpersonal conflicts during blood feuds, and dangerous hunting expeditions. Animal attacks also seem to have been a common occurrence, as evidence from skeletal remains reflects encounters with wolves, bears, and wild boars. The most hardcore part of all of this is that these injuries didn't stop Vikings from continuing their warrior lifestyle. Many skeletons show multiple healed injuries sustained over decades of fighting, suggesting these warriors kept returning to battle again and again. To really drive this home, even their clothing and equipment were designed for survival in the harshest conditions. Vikings wore layers of wool and furs that could withstand the brutal Scandinavian winters, and their gear was designed for both protection and mobility in combat. Yet another adaptation that seemed to benefit their rough lifestyle were their exceptional hand strength and grip, developed through constant rowing, weapon handling, and manual labor. Viking hands, based on skeletal analysis, show extraordinary development of the finger and thumb bones, with attachment points for muscles being notably pronounced. This likely affected the way they gripped their oars, weapons, and tools, allowing them to maintain iron grips even in wet, cold conditions during sea raids. Their hand development possibly meant enhanced precision capabilities when crafting their intricate metalwork and shipbuilding, while also allowing them to powerfully grip their weapons in combat. So clearly Vikings were absolute units on the outside, but they were pretty exceptional on the inside too. One of the more obvious signs being their barrel-shaped chests, which accommodated wider rib cages and larger lungs. Studies on Viking skeletal remains suggest that these warriors had lung capacities approximately 15 to 20% greater than average medieval populations, though this number varies. This exceptional lung capacity is thought to have been partly genetic, but primarily an adaptation to their maritime lifestyle. Rowing long 4 hours required extraordinary cardiovascular endurance. The need for efficient oxygen intake and their impressive lung capacity is thought to have been an adaptation to support their active lifestyle and to help them survive in the harsh Nordic climate. And during extended sea voyages, this is reflected in their energy requirements as well. It's estimated that an active Viking warrior needed between 4,000 and 5,500 calories every single day to maintain their physique and activity level. Their diet consisted heavily of fish, meat, dairy, and grains, whatever could be obtained through farming, fishing, hunting, or raiding. Now, because Vikings were built like champions, you may be thinking that they were exceptional long-distance travelers who could maintain their pace for days, and you'd actually be right. Historical accounts describe Viking raiders marching for days with full gear, rowing their ships across vast distances, and maintaining combat effectiveness even after exhausting journeys. Their biological traits point to warriors built for sustained, moderate activity rather than short sprints. For example, their leg bones were proportioned for efficient long-distance travel, something commonly seen in populations that walked and traveled extensively. Even their foot structure, based on skeletal evidence, shows adaptations for prolonged standing and walking on varied terrain. This made them exceptional at the sustained physical activity required for their raiding expeditions and long sea voyages. And yet, while their bodies were the most blatant signs of physical prowess, the true testament to their capabilities came from their remarkable resilience and pain tolerance, documented in numerous historical sagas and supported by skeletal evidence, showing healed injuries that would have been excruciating. All this power and endurance no doubt gave them quite a lot of brawn, but interestingly enough, they were also possessed of considerable cunning as well. Vikings were master shipbuilders, navigators, traders, and strategists. They developed sophisticated navigation techniques that allowed them to cross oceans without compasses, created complex trading networks spanning from North America to the Middle East, and established settlements in some of the harshest environments on Earth. Today, it's widely believed that Vikings could perform a whole host of complex tasks such as coordinating military campaigns, crafting intricate metalwork and jewelry, building ships that were centuries ahead of their time, developing their runic writing system, and of course maintaining their rich oral tradition of sagas and poetry. Yet despite their impressive capabilities, researchers do not necessarily think that Vikings had some sort of magical superiority. Rather, they were products of their environment and culture. Their harsh homeland forged them into warriors and survivors through necessity. Their raiding culture rewarded strength and courage. Their seafaring lifestyle demanded endurance and adaptability. Their physical features reflected these demands. Larger frames to survive cold climates, powerful builds developed through constant labor and combat training, exceptional cardiovascular systems from rowing and traveling, and remarkable bone density from their protein-rich diets and active lifestyles. Furthermore, their lifestyle relative to settled medieval populations was not just more active but more varied as well. Vikings weren't just warriors, they were farmers, traders, explorers, craftsmen, and settlers. This varied lifestyle contributed to their exceptional physical development and practical skills. At this point, I wouldn't blame you for thinking Vikings were quite remarkable compared to their contemporaries. You may be wondering what impact this has on you if you're one of the many with Scandinavian ancestry. Well, simply put, modern genetic studies have found some interesting connections. Populations with Viking ancestry tend to show slightly higher frequencies of certain genes associated with height and bone density. Though the effects are subtle, most maintain that Viking genetic heritage usually only has subtle effects on physical characteristics. Although there is growing evidence that Nordic populations historically adapted to high-latitude environments in ways that still influence descendant populations today. That being said, many of these studies are ongoing and there is still much to learn about the Viking genetic legacy. But what no one is in disagreement with is just how extraordinary these Norse warriors and explorers were, true freaks of nature, who shaped the medieval world through sheer physical prowess, remarkable endurance, and indomitable will. Thanks for watching, and until next time.